Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the Railway and welcome to another review. I'm ultra excited today because I have a brand new Hornby train pack which is an all new tooling and it's only just been released. So let's get to it, let's hope it's a good one. So the Loco/train pack in question is this. It is the brand new Hornby Stephenson's Rocket train pack. And the crazy thing is the previous version of Hornby's Rocket, I have a review on it if you'd like to see it, is almost 60 years old now. It was released in 1963 and this is the first time the model has been revisited since then, which is quite amazing. Now I haven't looked at this yet, I've tried to steer clear of any review material. The only thing I've seen really is a few clips on Hornby's channel, so this will be 100% fresh for me. The front of the box does sort of open, but it's still taped shut. That is how fresh this review is going to be. I haven't even opened the door yet. The RRP for this Loco is, well, train pack is £179.99, which is obviously an awful lot of money. I mean, this does not feel like a very heavy box. It's not a substantial train pack. But then again, maybe it is good value because you get 3 coaches. I think it will all come down to whether or not the Loco performs as it should. Let's hope the stories aren't true. Please don't let the stories be true. The RRP for the centenary version was £10 more, £189.99, which is obviously getting quite close to £200. An awful lot of money is that. Fortunately, I bought mine from Hatton's for £162, which is a little bit of a discount, but obviously still a lot of money. So, fingers crossed this is going to be good. Let's get it out and find out, and we'll experience it together, hopefully. Here we go. Okay, so I must confess I have no idea what to expect at all. Obviously the price has set some high expectations, but there are so many questions. How have they gone about motorising this? Will it be an improvement over the previous version? Will it handle the coaches that it comes with? Will the Loco be made of metal? So many questions, I have no idea what the answers are. As you can see, the packaging looks really, really smart. I love the sort of digital drawing on the front there. It's kind of modern and old-fashioned at the same time, which is awesome. Now, the box is very unrevealing. As I say, not very much, just some warnings on the back. So, I've been able to find Rusty. I was worried about him. I thought, we've lost Rusty forever. Apparently not. Found him just after I filmed the last video. So I'm going to cut the tape, and this will be my first look at Stephenson's Rocket in the flesh. I don't even think I've seen a sample of this at an exhibition. I don't think so. Could be wrong. You know what memory's like. Here we go, though. Wow. God, blimey. I tell you, the thing that hits me is the size of the coaches. I'll have to compare them at some point, but those coaches look tiny compared with the trying ones. And of course, these are going to be the most accurate, and we'd think so. Wow. And the Rocket herself, look how tiny she is. I must say it looks good. I mean, I'm really used to the trying version, so the tiny little connecting rods there really do look very fine. Cool, blimey. Right, so what have we got here? We seem to have a little, well, it looks very period, doesn't it? If that makes sense. Look how old-fashioned that looks. It looks like a history of the Rocket. I'll try and get a shot of that for you so that you can pause and read it, although I will give you a brief history of the Rocket itself. And look at that diagram is beautiful. I wonder if that's modern and has been made to look old, or I wonder if that's an old historical photo or drawing. That is brilliant though, isn't it? Right. Okay, well, let's see about getting this out. Did I tell you how much the box weighs? I weighed the box, that's how excited I was. Yeah, it's a bit mental, isn't it? The box itself weighs in at 263 grams, which is obviously not very much. I mean, I've got Locos that weigh much more than that on their own. And this is a Loco and 3 coaches, but obviously it's no comparison, is it? Okay, I apologise that this is taking so long. I just don't want to damage the packaging at all. So, this has revealed, well, I don't know if they were visible before or not, but you can see that we do have some painted figures as well in this pack. That is nice, I really like that. And it's all protected with this sort of plastic cover, so we'll look at that in a second. This is interesting to me though. We have the operating and maintenance instructions for Stephenson's Rocket. Never expected to see one of these. Wow, okay. Okay, so it's not terribly revealing. I can't really see much of the mechanism, although over on the right-hand side you can just see a bit of the gearing there, which looks pretty cool, that must be said. Shows you a bit about lubrication. Figure location, that's pretty nice. Oh, so there are little holes in the footplate, for want of a better term, which allow you to put the figures in the intended spot. That's pretty cool. Look at this. It shows you how to fit a DCC decoder into the barrel, the water barrel there. And looking at the size of the water barrel, I wouldn't like to have to fit a decoder into there. There doesn't seem to be very much space. Yeah, it's very tight fit. And then, oh yeah, it's just the usual guff about TV suppression on the back. Okay, right. Well, let's see exactly what we get in the pack then, shall we? Let's take off the front. That comes off nice and easy. Wow. I have to say, the finish looks incredible there. There's a big gap, very noticeably, in the side of the barrel. Hopefully I'll be able to clip that back on. Yeah, the paintwork looks wonderful on the side of the tender particularly, and also on the rocket itself, of course. Okay, well, there's a little bag that's arousing my curiosity, so let's take a look at that. Ah, okay. Well, that looks like couplings to me. So we've got an interesting mode of coupling, it seems. Probably no, yeah, there are no NEM couplings or anything fitted to the model, so I'll have to investigate and find out how those couple together. That should be interesting. Let's have a look at the figures though. I'm not decided yet whether I want to get these figures out or not. It might be nice just to leave them in their bags, but I'll try and get a good look. Here's one, looks like Ebenezer Scrooge with a shovel. What's he been doing? Won't pay his servant to shovel snow for him? I don't know. Either way, that's nicely painted, actually, very much so. That one's nice. We'll put him back in there. All right. Who's this guy then? This must be the driver. Oh, yes. Slightly posher attire, actually, yes. Nice top hat. Yeah. Look at that. Wouldn't catch train drivers looking like that these days, would you? Blimey. But no, they are nicely painted compared with those cheap Chinese ones that I bought for about 10p a piece. Yeah, they do look pretty good, actually. Right. Now, how do I get the rocket out of here? Let's just try and push it at the back. Oh, right. Yeah, it seems to be coming out. Got to be careful with this thing. All right. Is the tender coming? Okay. Wow. First things first, this seems incredibly light. There is not a lot of weight to this at all. The pickups are all askew. Yeah, that one on the rear wheel of the Loco there is hopelessly bent out of the way. Yeah, this does look really quite fragile, doesn't it, this? I'm not even sure if the tender... Oh, yes, the tender does have some pickups. It's doing it through the axles. That's very interesting. Well, it's easy to get distracted by the mechanical side of this, but, I mean, what a beauty that is. Touching the actual sort of wood panelling over the boiler, maybe that is made of metal. So maybe they have done what they can. It is definitely a slimmer and more dainty model than the Triang was, and obviously the total weight of the model has been reduced as a result of that. But okay, well, there's some repairs needed with that then, because I'm not going to run it with all the pickups bent like that, or with any of them bent. Right, let's take a look at some of these coaches then. How am I going to get these out? Push it from the back, shall I? Right. So I think that's the way to go. There's some little delicate looking steps which I don't want to damage. Wow, these are tiny, absolutely tiny. Look at those. So this is entirely unrecognisable from the old Triang. It's about half the size of the old Triang coaches. The decoration is superb. Very, very light, as I say, not much weight to them, and the wheels are very free. So obviously these have been designed to be very easy to pull, which hopefully will work properly. Look at the roofs though, all of that separately fitted detail. I'll have to show you this up close in just a second. But which one's that? That one's globe, okay. Are these different? I'm guessing they are going to be different. I just can't get over how dainty all of this is. I mean, I always just assumed that the Triang model was accurate, you know, because it was so tiny. But no, this one is definitely smaller. There's no question how much smaller this is. And the detail just looks so much more impressive as a result. There we go. So what's that one? That one is Renown, looks like, yeah. Liverpool and Manchester. Such a great livery, isn't it? Very unique. Will be interesting to see how easy it is to couple these together, because I do have famously cumbersome sausage fingers. Please don't break. All right, okay, I got it. There we go. And that's the final one. Looks like Wellington to me. Now, I think the centenary versions had different names, so there's a bit of a motivation there for you to buy both. Unfortunately, I just went for the one. And I'm not really convinced on how many more coaches the model would actually be able to handle. But yeah, I suppose we'll find out, won't we? So we will have a close look at the rocket. Let me grab it again. I mean, visually, this is just a stunning Loco. If it works properly, I will be very, very impressed and pleased with this. So here's a little history on the rocket herself, and after that we will take a close look. So the rocket was first built in 1829 and it is often mistakenly referred to as the first ever steam locomotive. While this is not the case, it is permissible to say that Rocket was one of the first ever successful steam locomotives. It won the Rainhill Trials in 1829, and that was a competition designed to prove that locomotives were the best mode of propulsion for railways, as opposed to a system of cables hooked up to a stationary steam locomotive, as was a popular idea at the time. Rocket was actually the only locomotive to successfully complete the trial, which was just a 1 mile length of track. I mean, it seems ridiculously trivial these days, doesn't it? In Merseyside, it's where Merseyside is today, and it was declared the winner by default, I guess. So in succeeding, Rocket set many of the conventions that would remain the basis of basically all steam locomotives to follow. It was a very big moment in steam history, and over the years, the original Rocket was sadly modified several times. Well, I don't know if sadly is the right word, because these days, while it is preserved, it's basically unrecognisable as the Rocket depicted by this model. Fortunately though, several replicas do exist of the Rocket in its original form, and one of the very best is at the National Railway Museum in York, and it is splendid. I've seen it there myself. Okay, so there we have it then, Stephenson's Rocket up close and personal, and I've got to say this is beautiful. It's way neater and tidier than I expected it to be. I saw all those tiny little pipe works and all those details, and I thought there's going to be some glue marks, got to be somewhere on this model. Not one, it really is neat and tidy. Before I talk about the model though, I first just want to say a word about the packaging, because in order to shoot the section that you've just watched of me unboxing it, I had to put the Loco and coaches back into the packaging in order to get a different shot of me unboxing them. And it was a nightmare. It seems as though Hornby have put lots of effort into making the pack look nice in the packaging, but they've not put much thought into how practical it is to actually unbox this thing. Getting those I was trying to ease those coaches back into the packaging and I could hear the details crunching on them. I also noticed that the pickups were snagging against the foam tray of the packaging, which is probably why those are damaged. Why did they think a really solid foam tray was suitable packaging for a train pack that is £190 in some cases? I don't know. I mean, taking it out of the pack was one thing, putting it back in again is another. I really hope I don't have to ever do that again, because yeah, I'm worried about those coaches. Looking at the model though, I mean, it is superb. Let's take a look at some of the decoration, which is really well done. I mean, the most obvious is the Rocket nameplate. That appears to have a metallic shine to it, so I think that could be an etched nameplate. That is a far cry from the old Triang version, which was just sort of painted onto a blank yellow plate. That looks absolutely wonderful. The actual funnel, the chimney, is not just bare metal, as was the case on the Triang version. It is this sort of beautifully moulded, cream painted chimney, which just looks wonderful. And you've also got this sort of pipe going up the side of it there as well. And the supports are really, really fine. Look at those. I mean, the model itself is absolutely exquisite. It really looks great. Look at the little details picked out on the wheels. That is wonderful. And the wheels are so fine as well. Look there. So you've got the connecting rods here, which are actually made of metal, although they have been painted over, which has lost their metallic shine a little bit, really. And I suppose that is a bit of a criticism. A lot of the pipe work, while it is really fine and neat and tidy, it is all sort of made of plastic, which means on the one hand it's quite flimsy. If you touch it, it flexes and it frightens you to death because you wonder whether you've done some damage. But also the finish isn't that great on it either. It does look a little bit like plastic, which obviously is not the intention, and quite a few components look that way. A lot of them are actually made of metal to the touch, but they've been sort of painted with a, well, it is like a metallic paint, but it doesn't have a very metallic finish, unfortunately, which is a shame. I do think though that the actual boiler section is made of metal, possibly the firebox as well. It's kind of difficult to get your fingers, much less your tongue or something gross like that, to the actual bodywork, because there is so much detail. It does feel as though the cylinder housings here are actually made of metal. They're definitely cold to the touch. So it is clear to see that they've made some effort to make the model a little bit heavier where possible, and that does show. So, I mean, props to Hornby for that. However, the Loco weight is not that great. Oh, that was a good rhyme, wasn't it? So we're talking 44 grams Loco and tender. Now, if you compare that to something such as the Ruston and the Wagon, that weighed in at 98 grams. That was more than double. This is incredibly light. And my old Rocket weighs over 100 grams, so it's even heavier than the Ruston. So yeah, the lightweight is a bit of a concern, but with a model this dainty, I mean, it's difficult to imagine how more weight could possibly have been added. The wheel set doesn't appear to have any traction tyres on it, which is a good thing. I mean, I hate traction tyres, so I assume that the Loco will have no trouble handling the coaches it came with. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. One thing I do like is the sort of accuracy. They don't seem to have made very many compromises on the visible appearance of the model in order to make it motorised. So if you remember, if we look at the Triang version, here it is, look at the size of that. I haven't zoomed in at all. That's actually what it looks like. If we look at the driven area, you can quite clearly see the gear there, and the whole area looks very, very different to the modern version. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still see the gear there, but it's nowhere near as noticeable, is it? Which I think has to be applauded. So that is one thing that the model has going for it for sure. I mean, it seems to be a very faithful representation of the rocket. And just sitting here looking at it, it looks astonishing. I absolutely love that. Let's take a look at the tender then. I mean, the detail and the decoration is superb. Look at the little black details on the wood panelling there. It looks amazing. The sort of axle boxes are separately fitted, it looks like, or possibly just separately picked out, but they look wonderful. And so do the wheels. Look at those wheels. Very, very tiny, fine wheels. Obviously custom wheels, no wheels here that have just been reused from other projects or anything. It's all sort of 100% rocket, which is great. The barrel doesn't look very good, it must be said. There is this great big gap all the way around it. I've tried to sort of push the barrel closed, but I could hear things creaking and starting to break almost, so I did not go any further with that. And I'm sorry to say, but the old barrel on the old Triang rocket from the 1960s looks considerably better than the new one. I mean, it really does, doesn't it? Much more convincing, and the moulding's slightly better as well. No big gap. On the inside though, you can see we do have the coal load there, which I don't think, well, it was sort of represented on the old rocket, but it was just kind of like a weird bubbly area of the floor. This one looks much, much better. I'm not quite sure what's gone on with the decoration there though. That's a bit of a mess, isn't it? And there are one or two little messes like that I've noticed on the model. There's a few coming up on the coaches, as you're going to see in just a sec. And then around the back you have this little area here which is for the coupling chains, which you do have to fit yourself. There's no NEM, as I say, which is quite good. I mean, a NEM pocket would be absolutely huge on one of these. So it's quite a brave move there on Hornby to ditch NEM and come up with their own sort of proprietary system for the rocket, which, you know, you can't complain about, can you? The NEM pockets would be seriously detrimental to the visual accuracy of the model. So what can you say? One thing that is good is that the pickups, at least in the tender, are not visible at all, which is really good and subtle, so I like that, provided of course they work okay. So before I give this a try, let's get one of the coaches and have a close look at one of those. I will just look at one because I think they're all basically the same. Okay, so here we have Wellington, one of the three coaches, and the first thing, as I say, and I think I expressed this when I first took one out of the pack, the first thing is the size. I cannot believe how cool and tiny these look. It's just amazing. The second thing is the intricacy of some of the details. Look at these tiny little separately fitted wires all over the top of the model. It's incredibly complex. They frightened me to death, don't get me wrong, when I was taking the thing in and out of the packaging. The packaging was very, very unsuitable for such a fragile model, but I think all three are unscathed. More or less, some of those little wiry bits have come out a bit bent, but I'm hoping I'll be able to straighten those without just snapping them off. The decoration on the whole is really, really good. I say on the whole because on some of the sort of underframe, the paintwork isn't 100%. And again, on the end, you can see some areas haven't been painted properly. I think with a piece that is this expensive, you would expect a little bit better, frankly. But for the most part, the decoration's really good. I like the centre part. Look, it looks like it says Wellington Railway Company, which is quite amusing. No, it's supposed to be the Liverpool Manchester, as you can see, if we look a bit further out. But yeah, I mean, it is very, very intricate. Look at the corners here. The decoration is wonderful, very much so. The door handles are all separately picked out, as you can see. In fact, they look as though they're separately fitted as well, don't they? Yeah. Really, really tiny details. All of the underframe detailing, look, has been picked out, which is great. The buffers are made of metal, which is quite a nice feature actually, isn't it? Good quality, but they're not sprung or anything like that. Again, maybe for the price it would have been nice to have seen sprung buffers if they were going to go all out, but at the end of the day, I don't suppose it's a big deal, is it? Not really. Nice little fine wheels, look at those. I should say none of the wheels on the coaches help to pick up. It is literally just the Loco and tender, so we'll see how I get on with that. They are really nice and freewheeling though. Oops, and yeah, almost lost one there. And then finally then, where the coaches are concerned, and I might not be able to get a good shot of this, there is a degree of interior detail as well. You can clearly see some seats inside there. Again, my trying Stephenson's rocket coaches don't have anything like that inside. They are just empty, blank coaches. And that is a very, very nice upgrade. Yeah, the level of detail is great on the coaches. In fact, I'm almost tempted to say they are my favourite part just because of how cool and tiny they are. And look, I love these little footholes as well. I mean, they're very, very small and fragile looking, and I certainly did have a bit of a scare. I thought one of them had broken off in the pack. No, it just turns out they are slightly off to the left. So it looks like some are missing, but they're not. Phew. So there we go, lovely coaches, a lovely Loco. Let's get the Loco on its own first of all, down onto the track and give it a try. I am really curious to see how it runs. Okay, so there she is then, the brand new Stephenson's rocket, completely light, no coaches, just Loco and tender, ready for the first ever test. And I've got to say, this looks fantastic, doesn't it? I just love the way this looks. It's such a big improvement on the old trying version, and I will run the trying version in a little while. Yeah, I didn't know what I was missing, honestly, just with that old 60s version all those years. Anyway, there's not an awful lot to say about the mechanism. Hornby did advertise that this was fitted with a 5-pole motor, which is obviously a massive step up from the older trying versions. And it also appears to have all-wheel pickup, now that I've repaired one of the dodgy pickups anyway. I think I've repaired it anyway. Yes, the tender pickups, again, that was another major drawback on the old version because the continuity with the track was really poor. Hopefully this one will be way better because we have 4 pickups going to each rail, which is quite respectable, actually, isn't it? Now, for obvious reasons, I haven't been willing to actually dismantle this thing and look at the mechanism inside. Hopefully you can appreciate the reasons why I've made that decision. I don't want to damage the thing or destroy it before I've actually tried to run it for the first time. So, with that, I'm going to set the direction and fingers crossed for good performance. Are you ready, folks? Are you ready? I can't really wait for an answer, can I? Let's go then. Here we go, a little bit of power, turning up real slow. Oh. Oh. Up to 30%, 50% speed. Oh, there we go. Oof, I thought we were in for a rough ride there, so to speak. Okay, I mean, this has not yet been run in. Already it does seem to be getting a little bit smoother. Oh, let's cut out again. Oh gosh. You know what, I am getting deja vu straight away. This is running basically just like my trying one does, except it's a lot smoother, but it still cuts out all the time. Hopefully though that will go away as the thing runs in, fingers crossed. What is the speed like out of interest? I mean, that is reasonably controlled actually, isn't it? It's not too bad. Ooh, this is exciting. I was really frightened for 1 second there because I didn't think it was going to work. What's the gearing like, I wonder? Let me take it out of shot and I'll turn it up to 50% speed and I'll let you watch that. Yeah, it's actually quite competent. The performance generally there is quite nice, if a little bit unreliable, but that could well go away. It could. Alright, well that's quite nice. Let's give it a little bit of a charge forth and back. It does actually seem quite smooth. When I cut the power, it doesn't just stop dead. It does slow down a little bit. I can't believe they would have fit a flywheel inside there, surely not. No, that is nice, and it's very quiet, very nice and quiet. Yeah, I would say, besides the cutting out, which I'm hoping will go away, that is definitely an improvement over what went before, and I should hope so too, because there's been almost 60 years between the two. Okay, so I'm going to set this forwards, and I will leave it running in at about half speed for about 30 minutes in each direction, and then we'll see if it's any better after that, and hopefully I'll try it with some coaches, and it should be able to manage them. Alright, here we go. So there she goes, half speed. Obviously, I mean, even that is a bit too fast for rocket, but it's way better than what I'm used to. It's much more controlled. Well, I have to say that looks really promising. It's quite nice actually, no cutting out on express points either. So I'll come back to you in just an hour or so once it's running and we will give it a try with the coaches. So while the Loco is running in, I thought I would try my hand at coupling these coaches together because it does look a little bit fiddly. Now in my coupling bag I had 4 longer couplings and 2 shorter ones. I thought at first we would have a set of 3 of each, you know, a long one for wide radius curves, maybe a shorter set for more realistic curves, but that can't be right because we've only got 2 shorter ones, unless the Loco maybe is supposed to use a longer one all the time. I don't know. Have they made a mistake? Am I supposed to have 3 of each? I don't know. Anyway, let's see how this goes then. So I'm going to take the longer ones. The short ones look incredibly fiddly and I doubt my curves will handle it. So, okay, that hooks onto the coach nicely. I'm guessing then I can then put that onto the track. Then I've got to try and hook them together, which hasn't really worked. So I'm going to have to use my screwdriver here to actually push the coupling home, like so. And actually, it was fiddly, you need a bit of a steady hand, but that wasn't as bad as it looked. So for the next one, let's grab, in fact, let's put couplings on both sides of this, because I'm going to want to put one of them on the Loco. So, yeah, they do sort of click home, it seems. There we are, that was a little click, and we'll get another long one for the Loco. Let's try that. There we are, alright, nice and easy. So again, line up the coach like that. Am I going to do this in one take, first try? I am. Great. I tell you what, those are very, very free rolling. It will not take a lot of power to pull those at all. Look at that. That is amazing. How free those are. We've got 2, 4, 6 sets of wheels there, 12 in all, rolling along like that. I mean, that has got to be less than the drag of a complete coach, definitely. Okay, well, they can bide their time there then, while the Loco runs in, and then we'll try, and fingers crossed, the Stephenson's rocket will be able to haul these 3 without a problem. Okay folks, so running in has concluded, and I have to say I'm thoroughly impressed with that. That has exceeded my expectations quite considerably. So it's a solid performer, it's really nice and smooth. I've not seen any cutting out on the points. I've had it running forwards and backwards with no issues, no derailments. I've tried everything I can to trip it up. I've put it over points, forwards, backwards, you name it. Nothing I do will cause this thing to derail. It's ultra solid on the track. I'm pleased to say that the pickups seem to be working a lot better now that they've been run in, because, there we go, the Loco can now maintain that speed, even over the dead zones of the express points, mind you, without cutting out. The only complaint is that it isn't dreadfully slow. I mean, that is really about the extent of the crawl. Any slower and it does just stop. So, I mean, it's not the best, but I think given its size and compared with the other rockets available, which I know you must be sick of hearing about because I keep mentioning them, but to me, just that is wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful, and like I say, solid as a rock. Let's, if you pardon the slightly dodgy camera work, we'll get it over the express point and I'll show you. There we are, dead zone. Now you can't ask for any better. I mean, there are no scenarios where the track could be worse than that. And backwards too, look at that, just perfect. So let's get it coupled to the coaches then. What do I need? I need it the other side of these points, okay? And we'll bring the coaches in. Oh, wow, they are very, very freewheeling. I was expecting I might have to put some oil on the axles or something. No, they are perfectly free as it is. And I will just get the Loco and coaches coupled up if I can. This is going to be awkward because I don't really want to lift this coach off the track. Otherwise it's going to come uncoupled, but I think I've managed it. Alright, so again, that's not too difficult. I mean, it's not the most user-friendly thing I've ever done, but I think you have to be willing to make 1 or 2 compromises with a model of this size. Okay, let's see if it can handle the coaches then. Fingers crossed. Oh yeah. Oh, I need to shut the points though. Hang on. There we are. Point shut. Look at that, it seems to be handling them fine. The big test, I suppose, will be Gordon's Hill. Is an incline enough to floor this Loco? I don't know myself, I don't know. I mean, the coaches are very freewheeling, but the Loco's also very, very light. And maybe my hill is going to be, sorry, Gordon's hill, it ain't my hill, I've claimed ownership there. Maybe it will be just too much of a gradient for this to handle. Well, let's see. Let's set it to about 40 speed and let's see. And as you can see, it is doing it without even breaking a sweat. I mean, at the top there we've got some wheel slip, but it is managing it without any problems. So that is really, really good news. I mean, unless your track is filthy or really poorly laid or something, I mean, worse than mine, you're not going to see problems with this. Gordon's Hill has floored lots of Locos, but it won't floor this one, which is great. So performance gets a big tick, and it looks fantastic with the coaches. It really does. So, I mean, is this Loco going to climb up onto a rise or something with a ridiculous incline? No, of course not. But I think you've got to be competent with your expectations with regards to what you're asking this Loco to do. In real life, this thing wasn't going to be on massive gradients. And in fact, its handling of Gordon's Hill there is really quite impressive. It needn't have been that powerful, but it is. It's more than powerful enough to handle the coaches it came with, which is great. I'm so glad about that. It's a beauty. It really is a beauty. Alright, so one thing that does interest me is how those couplings behave if they're put into reverse. Do they rely on some sort of tension to keep them going? So let's try it in reverse. Go up to about the same speed. See how we get on with that. Not a problem. This is shaping up really, really well. Look at that. Oh, we've got some other Locos there. I'm going to be running those in a moment. I've got a bit of a theme of old-timey Locos to show you. Look at that. Rock solid performance. It is so beautiful. Don't get me wrong, it's very expensive, but it's got to be worth it, hasn't it? Hang on. Gone out of shot there. So that's a complete lap in reverse. That was good. I wonder how it handles points in reverse. Let's try that, and then we've ticked every box, haven't we? Okay. Gone out of focus there for a second, I apologise. Switch the points. Reverse, reverse. Look at that. You can do what you like. Those couplings are great. What a good little design. Yeah, can't fault it. Brill. And with that then, it is time to introduce another guest Loco on the railway. It is the classic old-fashioned trying Stephenson's rocket. And don't get me wrong, I still love this one because I've poured a lot of hours into that one to get it to work properly and put pickups in the tender and all the other things I've done to it over the years. But you can quite clearly see how different the two models are. And in fact, if I bring it forwards again, we will just glaze over the fact that my trying one crawls a little bit better than the new Hornby one. Shall we do that again? Let's try. Look at that. Yeah, it's a bit slower, isn't it? I mean, I don't know who I'm trying to fool because it's not really very reliable. Like I say, it does cut out a lot, even despite the updates I've done. But if you can get it to crawl, you know, in the spur of the moment sort of thing, like that. Ooh, go on. Yeah, it is just a little bit better, but not as reliable. So, I mean, it's a null point. I'm not saying this is better. Don't take that away from this video. But there we go. Oh, installed. Yeah, I'm not kidding. And as I say, I do have a theme of old-timey Locos running today, so see which others you can spot. Oh, hello, Stephen. Yes, I know, you want to show off. Yeah, so there are some old-fashioned Locos for you to spot as well. Right, let's catch up with the new Hornby rocket, see how it's getting on. Zoom. It's not too fast, actually, that, to say it was coming down Gordon's Hill. And here comes the new prized possession. I mean, it's Hornby again, isn't it? Same with the Ruston. What a fantastic performer in such a tiny form factor. But it is, I can't fault it. Ooh, that was a bit of a struggle. It's running a bit more slowly now. But look, it's doing it. And you've seen how other Locos handle that incline. Fantastic. Yeah, the D16, did I tell you that was a D16? Perhaps I didn't. It's a D16. There you go. I've done it now. I've created this weird universe with multiple rockets in it. So let's take a quick look at some of my ratings then for the fantastic Hornby Stephenson's rocket. The level of detail I've given very nearly the perfect score, just 4.5. The only really way that it could improve, in my opinion, was to have some of those metal parts actually look like they were made of metal and have that realistic metallic shine to them, and also minor things such as the lack of sprung buffers. If it wasn't for those, I would have probably given it 5-star because the level of detail was superb. On the whole, the decoration was really good as well. For such a tiny model, it really has impressed me. The performance, similarly, is way better than I had expected. It's silky smooth, no derailments whatsoever, handles the coaches it came with without a problem, which is really all you can ask for, isn't it? The only thing that could be slightly better is the crawl, but certainly compared with the older rocket models, the crawl is very good. So I've given it 4-star on performance there. The pulling power is okay. I mean, I couldn't actually get an accurate measurement from it because it was so weak, but it can manage the coaches it came with, as I've said. I've given it a rough estimate of around 5 coaches on straight and level track, although obviously it won't manage quite that much on gradients or curved track, but like I say, with what it came with, it is absolutely fine. The mechanism, I'm struggling to fault really, so I've given it 5-star. The fact that they've managed to cram in a 5-pole motor into such a tiny model is amazing. It has tender pickups, which is great, and I'm happy to say that now that it has run in, those are very reliable, and I'm not seeing any cutouts even on the express point. So yeah, the mechanism's great. It also appears to have a flywheel fitted. I don't know whether that's just because of a super free mechanism or whether it really does have one, but if you cut the power, you can see that it glides to a halt rather than stops dead, which does suggest a good mechanism at the very least. So there we go, I've given it 5-star. The build quality then is 4-star. There does seem to be a degree of die cast on the Loco itself, which gives it enough weight to handle the coaches as intended, and it also feels quite good in the hand. Like I say, if there was a little bit more actual metal work, particularly where the pipe work was concerned, I might have given it an extra star on quality, and particularly with the decoration as well. Yeah, there were a few sloppy areas of decoration, but they were only very minor. It is also a little bit on the fragile side. I mean, you do have to be very careful, obviously. I mean, that's expected and that's reasonable with a model. But yeah, with things like the pickups getting damaged just coming out of the box, you do have to question the quality a little bit, and the packaging left a lot to be desired as well. I don't know what possessed them to use such a rigid tray to store everything in, but yeah, I wouldn't have done it that way. Now the value for money then, now £179.99 is the RRP. They were sold for as much as £189.99 in the centenary bundle, and I paid £162 from Hatton's, which leaves us about £100 for the Loco and about £20 each for the coaches. To me, that sounds a little bit too expensive. I mean, the Loco is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but for £100 that is quite a lot. Again, the coaches, while they are beautifully detailed, they're very tiny. I mean, I've had brake vans that only cost 20 quid, which have a similar amount of detail. True, some of the extras, some of the bonuses, like the crew, for example, are lovely. They're really nice. But I just think if it was a little bit cheaper, like maybe even 10 or 20 pounds cheaper, it would have sweetened the deal quite nicely. Having said that though, everything works as it should and it is beautifully detailed, so I have given it 3 stars. It's not terrible value for money. You do get what you pay for, which is good. Overall then, that is 7.87 out of 10. Yeah, very respectable score overall. Let's put it into the logbook. It's a little Bachmann sandwich. There it is, 14th above the Bachmann 45 and below the Bachmann E1. Overall, more than happy with this. It definitely surpassed my expectations, which is great. So that was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And like I say, it exceeds expectations. As long as your layout, well, as long as it's more competently built than mine, I suppose, you won't have problems with it. It is just fine, and I was not expecting that to be the case. But it is absolutely fine. So, with that, thank you for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about this. Was it something you managed to get hold of? Would you buy one if Hornby did a re-release? Hopefully they will make some more because it's a very good, compelling model. Looks the part and works fantastically as well. I'd love to see more, definitely. Alright folks, well thank you very much for watching, thank you for your support, hope you enjoyed the video as always, and I will see you soon with some more. Alright, take care folks, catch you on the next one.